Now, I've already talked about the image quality and the screen performance itself in the screen section. And that, of course, is a large part of the overall reader experience. So, generally speaking, for just reading dark text on white surfaces, Max Lumi 2 is exceptionally good. So, the crispness of the text and the contrast really makes it pop. Now, when you actually combine that with just how fast this whole thing is, it's just absolutely ridiculously fast, regardless of what kind of content it is. This is where it shines, like how much power this monstrosity actually has. So that's those two combined is a really good thing. But then you add the third thing to the mix, which is this really large screen, and there are two really important aspects to it. First of all, you get to read it as a native A4 format, which is a really comfortable thing to have, like properly good. But then you also add into the combination the split view, which then looks like this, and then you get to have these two documents or two separate documents or whatever you may have, but in a perfectly usable way, because you have just simply this much screen real estate. And then of course there's the added functionality that this other screen can be another document, another book, it can be a notebook if you wanted to, etc, etc. And of course this also reflects onto the system-wide the split screen option, which is a really cool thing, but more on that a little bit later. Now, as far as the reader goes, yeah, I'm not gonna go into all of the functionalities here simply because there's too many, but just at a glance you are able to, of course, very quickly navigate. You have the control over the formatting, unlike any other app that I've used or any other platform that I've used. You have this fabulous option of just matching the width, and then if I simply go and rotate, and that's another thing, it's missing the accelerometer, so that's kind of wonky. But if you had a really small, of course this is really large, but this is something that also is really good for super dense or really small scans of PDFs. This absolutely helps the option of having the ability to so easily fit and just basically choose the format that you want and you just use it. You don't have to fiddle around with controls or things like that. It's really powerful reader capabilities. You have separate image control, embolden, sharpen image, watermark, dark color enhancements, automatically flip pages. You can have it read to you. You can also take notes in documents, right? Or if you wanted to, you could also disable scribbling, and then you can actually use your pen for navigation instead of a touch, which I find particularly useful when I'm marking up a document, because then I can just underline things like this, and then you can add a note. Somebody asked, can I actually write like I can in the Supernote? With the default keyboard, no, but if you actually install Gboard, certain versions of Gboard actually do have an option to write here instead of type, and then it does the text recognition or handwriting recognition, and then it would just insert it there as an annotation. So just kind of stuff like this. And yeah, you have excellent control with the table of contents, really good formatting of table of contents, management of bookmark files, your annotations that you can export, your scribbles that you can actually find. So plenty of options here, and just generally speaking, NeoReader is my absolute favorite reader platform. And on top of that, you also have the ability to install Kindle or Kobo and actually use them and read your Kindle and Kobo files on this ginormous format, which is also something that's quite interesting. So overall, as a reader platform, I absolutely love it, and that's one of the things that I really love. That's why my Note Air is my primary driver, because I do a heck of a lot of documents reading, markups, and basically annotations and all that kind of stuff stuff, and I have to combine it with when I'm doing research, I have to combine it with note-taking and all of these kinds of things. As a platform for that kind of use, this is absolutely perfect for that. Now, there are definitely some shortcomings. So first of all, we were waiting for Boox to actually issue the ability to synchronize your annotated documents and books between different devices. Now that was supposed to happen in 3.2, but it hasn't, and now they're saying that it's going to be available in 3.3. So that's something that we're still waiting on. However, I do use the this program here called AutoSync, where you can actually synchronize contents of different folders with your G Drive or Dropbox, and there's a separate file in the overall functionality will be covered in one of those dedicated guide videos that I have been talking about. But yeah, this is just a general kind of a checkup because there's far too many features to cover in just an in-depth review. If you're interested in more, a little bit more is shown in the Node Air reader side of things, or the reader chapter, so you can check that out, or some of my previous videos, for example Max Lumi 1. That one is a combined in-depth and guide video, but that was not 3.2, that was not 3.2, that was 3.0 I believe. And yeah, so some things may be a little bit different or not. Oh, and just one of the clarifications, a lot of users are getting confused by this OCR thing, and they're saying like, I've even read people saying like, oh, you can only do handwriting conversion on books 5 times per day. And that's of course not what this is. OCR here is to recognize the characters, the letters on a page. If you have a document that has been scanned as an image, so if you have a scanned image and it doesn't actually recognize the texts here, so you can't really select them like this, then you can actually use the OCR functionality to actually convert the document like that. So this is not your handwriting conversion. So handwriting conversion is of course free, it's not limited, but it is limited only to the notebook, so you can't do handwriting conversion in the Neo reader. So I just wanted to clarify that because a ton of misinformation is kind of circulating online. Shocking, I know, but I just wanted to kind of address it as it comes along so that those who are interested, they can actually get proper information this way. For me, overall, Boox reader experience is the most dominating feature of the Boox platform, and when you couple that with this fabulous 13.3 image format and the new panel that really makes the text kind of pop up, it's an incredibly useful and awesome experience. And that's one of the reasons why I was really hoping that there will be a Max Air, because I'm kind of itching to get this kind of format, but instead we got Max Lumi 2, which is not the format that I prefer. And then also on top of that, Max Lumi does have this glaring issue, and I simply can't get over it. This is something that really does bother me at basically in anything that I do. So again, the reader capabilities are fantastic, but they are somewhat hindered with this reflectivity that is obviously a problem with the screen surface that we have here. However, as I mentioned, you can remedy that quite easily by simply getting a good paper-like reflection, dimming, or diffusing screen protector, apply that, and then the problem should be completely gone. New platform is really good with the new OS, with the Android 11, and the combination with the new Snapdragon. It just makes so much sense. And as you can see in the benchmarks, yeah, as Node Air 2, this one as well, Boox Max Lumi 2, in majority of the tests, or the tests that were able to play nice with the Android 11, it scored really high. Now, one of the things that probably a couple of you have noticed is that in some of the scores, Max Lumi is actually scoring a little bit lower. Now, in graphical scores, that makes perfect sense, simply because Max Lumi is running a higher resolution, which means more pixels. So the same type of CPU, the same horsepower, has to run a bigger kind of a frame and has to do more job. So that's naturally going to be slower. But some of the computational scores are also lower on Max Lumi than they are on the Note Air 2. And this is something that I've noticed in the previous generation of devices. Once they were released, then you had initial results like that, but then they started issuing updates, and yeah, as I said, there's another one here. And then through those iterative updates over a course of maybe 2 to 3 months, I saw that pretty much all of the devices across the range were equalized as far as the performance goes. So I have no reason to believe otherwise for this series of devices, and seeing how rapid updates are coming out, it's very likely that this is going to equalize across the board this year as well. Yeah, the performance, as I've shown, in everything that you do is extremely fast, really reliable, really snappy. The thing that I really love is that the detection is really fast and precise. I rarely have to double my gestures and things like that, even though, okay, now I do. In this one I actually do, because I'm pressing with this part of my finger, and since I play the guitar, then these are kind of dead skin, and that's like yeah, stuff that really doesn't work with touch screens. But yeah, from installing, scrolling, just flipping between apps and kind of doing these things, it's a really cool thing. OS in general could use a little bit more fine-tuning. Here's an example. We have the gestures here to swipe up so that I can get to the whatever it's called, but I want to get to the multitask manager. And as I do this, it's going to detect the scrolling up, and then it's gonna actually call up on this one. So because all I'm trying is to get to this one so that I can swap between apps and things like that. So there are definitely things to kind of check out, while in NeoReader it's actually calibrated properly. So it really depends on an app to app. So some fine-tuning definitely could be a benefit. So yeah, here it actually works okay. So it really is a hit and miss, but generally speaking, overall the platform behaves extremely behaves extremely quack. And it's basically what you would expect from the top tier model of this lineup of devices. So yeah. I tested the USB OTG the regular way. I'm not gonna show it because it's always the same thing. So I do get the same exact results that I usually get with this USB hub that I have. It works flawlessly with the USB storage, so that basically works all the time. It doesn't really matter. So that's a good thing to see. However, I still haven't been able to get the HDMI out to work from any of the Boox devices. One of the users actually mentioned maybe it's because it's not powered, so maybe the device is not able to power it correctly. My initial test when I tried that didn't really work out, but I'm gonna try and do a more thorough test at some point and to see if maybe that is the case or not. And the same thing I got on Max Lumi as well. If I have USB power pass-through, it can charge, but only if you don't have another USB drive plugged in. The moment I plugged in a USB drive, then it would no longer charge. It would prioritize this one, which actually works for me because as soon as I finished, I unplug it and it continues charging. So and of course LAN, I never got to get it to work on any Android device. So phone, normal tablet, or any of the Boox devices, nope, I never got this to work. And I don't know if you can actually on an Android. I really don't know if you can do that or not, but yeah, so far I haven't been able to get that to work. But yeah, regular functionality, at least for the USB, yes, USB OTG, yes, you get it for storage. And also if you hook up a keyboard, USB keyboard, or even a mouse, that actually does work. Now the keyboard, of course, you can hook up via the Bluetooth, etc, etc, but as far as the OTG functionality goes, this is pretty much it. So everything that I've come to expect and experience from other devices is consistently here on Lumi 2 as well. Now, on top of everything here that I've already shown, Boox devices also have a comprehensive set of other functionalities because they are an Android 11 device. But even without, the Google Play, you already have the ability to have screencasting, which is, unfortunately, that functions only with Windows 10 and now 11, not on Mac devices. But frankly, even when you do get it to work, it's at the best, and it's like that on every device. So that's basically the built-in screencasting in Android is but the benefit is that you do have Google Play. If you want to, you can enable it, and then you can download any specialized app that's made for dedicated screencasting and that works with Macintosh, Linux, or Windows, or any other platform, and that those usually function far better, and they're more superior in features and the latency and everything else than the built-in screencasting. But just so you know, yes, the built-in screencasting is there. However, if you are looking for more functionality, you also have that option because of the built-in Google Play. You also have the option of having a split screen functionality system-wide, but for that you do have to have the one of the apps at least running. And the new thing is that now we have both vertical and horizontal split screen, so you can have split screen like this or split screen in vertical orientation. Let's show it like this, right? So something like this, for example. And in this case, as I showed before, in the document, this is not a problem because you can just use formatting and then it actually works, so this is a really good way of doing it. But that's not so much true on the notebook itself. Yes, theoretically you can zoom in, but then you run into the problem with the canvas scaling and the template scaling, something that I mentioned before. So this is not really the ideal way of doing it. What I would do if I were to use this in this split mode is to actually have a dedicated landscape orientation notebook, and then that one fits nicely, and then you can actually have things like this, right? But alternatively, you can also use let's go back all the way. Alternatively, you can also use the split screen functionality in the horizontal mode, and then you're going to have basically, it's a very strange naming because horizontal mode has them in portrait and the portrait mode has them in horizontal mode, but all right, fine. So yeah, in this mode you also have the regular notebook functioning as you would expect it to, and because of the insane amount of screen real estate, you do have this option of actually having fully dedicated documents here. So you can use, in this case, this is my daily organizer, right? So you can actually use that and write and fill in and maybe use additional notes here or research or whatever. Or you could use Kindle here. Kobo actually is not compatible, and that actually brings me to a point that in this other side of the split screen mode, you can either have one notebook and one reader. You can't have two readers and you can't have two notebooks at the same time for whatever reason. Or you can have one of the each, reader or notebook, and a dedicated app, but that app has to support the split screen mode. That's more of a hit and miss, more a hit than a miss. More apps I encounter support this than they don't support it. But for example, I know that Kobo still doesn't, but Kindle does. So that's basically what the split screen mode is. But yeah, it functions really well. And especially on a device with so much screen real estate, it adds an additional amount of power to the whole platform. On top of all of that, you have a screen recorder, that you can just start recording your screen and it records whatever you've been doing, writing, reading, marking up, doesn't matter, drawing, records it as an MP4 file. And because this is a Android device, then you can, for example, go to any of the files, even if it was recorded as an MP4, but for example, here I have a PNG, and I can just launch long press on any of the files, and I can use share, and then I can just share it and send it via my in a Google Drive, on Hangouts if you want, on Dropbox, on your email, or whatever it is that you want. So the functionality is extremely versatile and powerful. You also have the Boox Drop, which is this icon here, and I have described the Boox Drop, what it is, and shown how it works in the Note Air review. Basically, this is a way to hook up with your computer or your phone directly, and then you can easily transfer files from the device to your phone or your PC, and vice versa, from the phone and a PC onto the device. And here's the kicker: without the need for the internet at all, because this establishes a local connection. So that's a huge bonus, and that's a new thing since since the Boox 3.2 version that they've introduced. So I really love that powerful feature. You also have in the apps, you have a screen recorder, you have a calendar memo with the whole calendar thingy, you have alarm if you want it, ability to install additional dictionaries, any browser that you want, any email client that you want, music player, Spotify if you want to, you can install it and use it. So tremendously powerful device with a huge amount of versatility, which allows it to actually slot into most of the workflows that you usually have. So a really powerful work tool. And yes, of course, it can be used as an external screen, but I won't be testing that here now, simply because I'm already going to be doing that in my back-to-back testing and versus comparison between Max Lumi 2, Boox Mira, and the Dasung Paperlike HD FT, whatever it's called. So detailed coverage of that and how they perform is going to be there, and then you'll be able to also see how Max Lumi performs as an external screen, but more importantly how it compares to the dedicated external e-ink display devices that are just monitors and not monitor and a tablet combined. So that's something that's coming a little bit later. And now it's the conclusion time for the Boox Max Lumi 2. And as usual, let's start with the cons. The first con is going to be the currently, at the making of this video, there is a question about Boox and GPL compliance issues, whether they have actually modified the Linux kernel or not. And they need to be more open and transparent about that issue to allow people who are interested in obtaining the source code modifications of the kernel to actually send them out. So basically it just comes down to this: if the Linux kernel has been modified, then according to the GPL license agreement, they have to honor that agreement fully. So more clarity and more forthcomingness regarding this issue towards the public is something that Boox needs to improve generally. As far as the device specific cons go, well, for the Max Lumi 2, it is this one. Yes, of course, the reflectivity. So for me, the number one con and the biggest con is that top fill that has been applied, pre-applied, and it's permanently applied to the screen, because its reflectivity and fingerprint happiness attributes are not good, and they do actually interfere with the comfort level of using the device in everyday conditions. So that's something that's an objective con and something that you have to keep in mind. However, this con is very easily solvable by getting a paper-like reflection diffusing screen protector that you actually apply on top, and then that problem is gone. However, you need to be aware of this, that basically when you buy this device, you should also hunt and find and buy the screen protector to actually remedy this problem that's there out of the box. The second problem, also regarded with the out of the box experience, while you do get the new and improved pen, which is really good, so that's a great thing, one of the cool things about the pen was the ability to hold the pen attached to the device via the magnetic forces. Unfortunately, that is not an option on Max Lumi 2, and furthermore, it is currently the only one of this year's refresh finished models except the Nova 3. All of the other devices that were released this year have that functionality. Of course, there's going to be people who are going to say like, wow, why are you making a big deal out of it? Well, I'll tell you why. Because Max Lumi 2 is the flagship device of their entire lineup. And as such, it is clearly showing that it was designed and made with compromises in mind. Compromises in mind on that level and a flagship device with a flagship price don't go hand in hand. So that's why this is a con. Another consequence of the compromise and reusing the exact same design is the fact that we have that button on the bottom, and there was a reason why people complained about that button at the bottom of the screen, especially when writing. It does get in the way and you do accidentally press it and then you go back home. Of course, there's going to be people who prefer to have the button, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with the button being physically there. What I do have a problem with is that we still don't have the simplest of them all, the option to choose, hey, do you want your button to act as back home or nothing, to be disabled, so that for people who find it annoying and don't want to use it, that they simply disable it. So that's something that's lacking, and hopefully that's something that will change in the future. Other cons are, basically the same shared cons across pretty much all of the Boox devices, including now the latest lineup, and that is, while you have tremendous amount of benefits from the Android 11 platform and the overall extended functionality and options that it as a platform offers, that also comes at a price of a rather steep learning curve. And furthermore, the redesign of the OS 3.2 has gone away with some of the texts underneath the icons, for example. So now you have to relearn where the options are because they have also shuffled. You have to learn what each of the icons means, etc., etc. So there's really no need to make it that difficult. The main problem that the Boox platform and the Boox OS environment had is that it's not as accessible to not tech-savvy people as it should be, because these devices are supposed to be used by tech-savvy and non-tech-savy people alike, and that should be kept in mind to actually make it more accessible, to make it more easier to transition into the whole Boox platform. Currently, it's not. Even though we received the update 3.2, there's still no option to synchronize your marked up library, PDFs, EPUBs, and everything else with your bookmarks, eNotes, annotations, and all that kind of stuff across devices. So for example, if I upgraded from my Note Air 1 to Note Air 2, because of the lack of that one, I can't really perform it that easily at all, and I have to resort to some mumbo-jumbo stuff if I want to transfer everything, including the annotations and all that kind of stuff. Now granted, once you export a PDF from this and you use alternative solutions, majority of the stuff does export, but that means that you do have to find an alternative workflow, an alternative app, an alternative service, and all of these kind of things to kind of bypass this, and there's absolutely zero reason or excuses not to have this supported natively with their own platform. So that's something that definitely should be addressed, and they have promised that it should be addressed in the OS 3.3. So here's hoping, and let's see. While we're talking about the updates, one of the cons is that, generally speaking, updates are, for me, too few and too far apart. Text recognition seems to have changed somehow, because the precision used to be more precise before, and now after the update, the Z, OS 3 and 3.1 and 3.2 now, it's stuff that it was able to recognize before, it is having trouble recognizing now, using the same pen, using the same handwriting, me, and the same device and everything like that. So that points that something may have changed with this one, but definitely I am noticing a change like that across the devices, Max Lumi 2 included. Very unintuitive user experience and user interface and expectancy of the user on how to use Canvas in combination with templates. And while we're talking about templates, especially on Max Lumi 2 with the large format, they should have kept in mind that the lower PPI and the larger scale is going to have an effect on the template's perceived dimensions, the real world scale. That has not been taken into account, and it should be. The same template may have tiny spacing between the lines on the Nova Air, and then has ginormous spacing between the lines on the Max. But then again, you have a very easy option of uploading your own custom templates, so it's not a biggie. But again, we're talking about a flagship device, so it should be flagship experience, and this is not there yet. And same as with the Note Air 2, your written notes and everything exports as vectors in a PDF, and that's a good thing, but we don't have dedicated SVG exporting. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. But then again, on the plus side, we have the ability to export only visible layers, which is a great thing as well. So definitely it's moving in the right direction. But when they mentioned that they have vector exporting, I was expecting to see SVG exporting, not the PDF that you have to kind of import, convert, and do all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that's something that they'll add somewhere along the line, maybe even in 3.3, who knows. And now for the pros of Max Lumi 2, I'm going to start with the build quality. Not the actual design. For me, the design, it's not a con because it's a good design, but it's definitely not a pro because it's the same exact design as before. But that being said, the build quality is exceptionally good. So this is a robust, really good device that is made to last. Another obvious pro is that this ginormous display, 13.3 inch, offers a huge amount of real estate to work with, offers a native A4 size of documents to be read on it or written on it, but primarily reading on this thing is absolutely phenomenal. To top it all off, it also has the 1250 Carta new display here, which for the text itself is exceptionally good, crisp and clear. The darkness around the images and things, we'll see if that's an update thing or not. So we'll see. But for the general purpose of reading and writing, like black on white, this is an exceptionally good display. Specs of this thing are really good. So you have the octa-core 2 GHz CPU, 6 GB of LPDDR RAM, and 128 GB of ROM storage. Massive. Boox platform offers Neo Reader as their default reader, and for me this is the most versatile and most capable reader out there, bar none. So yeah, I've tried pretty much everything at this point, and for me personally and objectively, Neo Reader simply summarizes everything in a really good way. So that's a very big plus for this platform and Max Lumi as well, especially with the big real estate. That combined, it actually also makes it an extremely comfortable reader. So when we combine the screen, the reader capabilities, the build quality, the thinness, the lightness, and all of that, it lends itself to be a reader experience unlike any other. Really unlike any other, because it's just so versatile and so powerful and so easy to handle in your hands, even though it's really big. Yeah, I just love it as a reader, like maybe the ultimate reader out there. Another plus is that it has exceptionally good writing latency. So we are now down to 34 milliseconds. It comes with the pen, which is another plus as well. And combined, it offers a very good writing experience. No, it's not as good as it is on the Note Air because it lacks the paper-like feel. And you have the reflectivity problem that does interfere from time to time. But overall, generally speaking, when you compare the writing experience of Max Lumi 2 with other devices across the range or other devices from other manufacturers, it falls into the category of very good writing experience. It has an excellent battery life. We have the ability to add brush presets easily and choice of colors. We got the complete Google Play Store available to expand to absolutely insane levels of versatility and flexibility of the whole device. And of course, it runs on Android 11, which is a really big plus as well. So let's summarize Max Lumi 2. Max Lumi 1 was and still is a really good and powerful e-note-taking device. Max Lumi 2 takes all of that and upgrades it to a next logical level by bringing a lot more power, efficiency, and a new display into this whole mix. However, it also failed to address some of the design issues from the previous version, something that could have been addressed now, and also it introduced a few new issues as well. The glare did get in the way on more than one occasion, both when reading and when writing, and the whole matter was definitely not helped with the fingerprint happiness and smudginess, because as soon as you start swiping or doing anything like that, like literally in 10 minutes, it just becomes like a whole smudged mess. And that's for me, it's an issue. Thankfully, this is a problem that's very, very easy to solve. You just buy a good paper-like screen protector for this device or something that will fit it, and you're done. However, you do have to keep that in mind, because for me personally, if I was buying Max Lumi 2, that would be an absolute must to compensate for this objective con. This addition of the paper-like screen protector would also improve another, not a con, but something that you're gonna need to be aware of, which is it doesn't have the paper-like writing experience. It has a really good writing experience, but not the super excellent one, and a good paper-like screen protector would, you know, knock both things out of the way in one go, which is a good thing. All other issues are minor, but unfortunately, for example, the magnet thing, you can't really attach the pen to the Max Lumi, and it's supposed to be, and it is, a flagship device, but it's the only one out of the entire range that is not able to utilize that functionality and that improvement on the pen. So that's kind of a bizarre combination that you have here. I've grown used to now just snapping that pen to the side, and I put it next to it, I lift the device and the pen stays on the desk. So it's just, every time that happened, it was an obvious reminder that this was simply a compromise. And this is not a moment, and this is not a device where it should have been compromised, especially not when you have Nova Air and Note 5 joining the completely redesigned family, and to leave out only the flagship device out of it, I don't know, doesn't make too much sense to me. Of course, financially and business-wise, it makes sense, I get that. It's an excellent device, but I don't like what that decision of reusing exactly the same housing, yet again, I don't like what it represents. That's pretty much it. While not a perfect device, and genuinely there are some objective annoyances with it, my biggest annoyance with this one is that those little things were very easily avoidable, and they are simply a distraction from what is an otherwise absolute beast of an all-rounder e-note e-reader taking device. And again, when we're talking about the flagship device and the price point of it, almost $900, well, when you actually add the a good screen protector, then we're talking about $900 plus tax plus shipping, so really massive amount of money. Then all of the annoyances and all of the little faults do count. Bottom line for me is this: if you get a good screen protector for it, you will be happy. If they finally allow us to disable that back button, you will be even happier, because then you would be able to fully enjoy what has to be one of the most rewarding and most comfortable reading experiences in the e-note world currently. And also it will be coupled with a very, very good writing experience to go with it. So I think Max Lumi 2 has one biggest problem, and that is Max Lumi 1, because it was, and still is, so good that it's very, very hard to convince me, at least, that it's obsolete and that you absolutely must have Max Lumi 2. If, however, you don't have Max Lumi 1 already, and you're looking to get into the magnificence of 13.3 inches e-note e-reader experience, and you're willing to dish out the bucket load of cash that is actually needed for a device like this, then Max Lumi 2 with a paper-like screen protector, it's like a must. Those two combined, it will be an excellent, excellent choice, and you will be very, very happy and really, really impressed with the overall power and just everything that it brings to the table. It's massively impressive. That's it from me. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please like and subscribe and ding the notification bell under the, somewhere around here. Also, check out the My Daily Organizer. The links are also down below. You have a whole playlist with the videos that actually describe what it is, what it does, so that you can check out if an organizer like that is something that could help you organize your life, work, or whatever in a better way, and if it's a product that actually suits you in some way or not. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye.